Ever wonder why some aquariums crash in just a few weeks while others run effortlessly for years? It's not luck, it's how you set them up. Before you add shrimp, fish, or even water, the choices you make now decide whether your tank thrives or slowly falls apart. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to build a stable aquarium step by step, the equipment you'll actually need, how to lay out your tank, how to prep the water, and the beginner mistakes nobody warns you about that quietly wipe out entire shrimp colonies. If you're new, or if you've already had shrimp die for no reason, you won't want to skip this. By the end, you'll know exactly how to set up an aquarium that keeps your shrimp and fish healthy, active, and stress-free, instead of gasping, hiding, or dropping off one by one. Let's dive in and get it right from the start. First and foremost, you need an aquarium. Neocaridina shrimp can thrive in a 5-gallon tank, but if you've got a bit of room in your budget, going larger, around 10 or 20 gallons, is much more ideal. If you plan on keeping Amano shrimp or small community fish as well, a 10 or 20 gallon tank gives you that extra space for everyone to thrive. In tighter tanks, fish can easily stress or even wipe out a shrimp colony, so a little more room goes a long way. Now, if you're setting up a tank for bamboo or vampire shrimp, aim for at least 20 gallons or more. These filter feeding shrimp grow quite large and appreciate space, not just for comfort, but for food. In my 55-gallon aquarium, I keep about 12 bamboo shrimp, 10 vampire shrimp, and 11 short-nosed shrimp, which are very similar to Amano's, along with a few nano fish. The other advantage of a larger tank is food availability. Bamboo and vampire shrimp fan the water for suspended edible particles, and the more volume you have, the more natural food there is drifting through the water column. Here's where most people mess up early. They think bigger tanks are harder, but in reality, larger aquariums are way more forgiving. More water volume means slower changes, which makes them easier to keep stable. A simple rule to follow is small tanks are cheaper to buy, but big tanks are easier to keep alive. The second piece of equipment you'll need is a filter. This can be a sponge filter, a hang-on back filter, or even a canister filter. Sponge filters are great for small to medium-sized aquariums and work especially well in Neocaridina setups. The large sponge surface makes an amazing grazing area for shrimp, and baby shrimp benefit the most. The sponge also prevents them from being sucked in. If I were breeding a large shrimp colony, this is definitely the type of filter I'd go with. Now, if you're not a fan of having a sponge filter visible in your tank, a hang-on back or canister filter is another good option. About 99% of my aquariums run on hang-on back filters. I've always preferred them, and I can usually hide the intake tube within my aquascape. My 55-gallon aquarium, on the other hand, uses a canister filter, mainly because it provides a strong flow that my bamboo and vampire shrimp love, along with some of the fish in there. It also keeps the water highly oxygenated, which these two shrimp species and my Borneo and Hillstream loaches really depend on. The one thing you have to be careful with these two types of filters is the intake tube. Always cover it with a pre-filter sponge, otherwise, baby Neocaridina shrimp can easily get sucked in. Nycrew's nano filter comes with one by default, and Fluval's new AquaClear models now include them as well. If you have an older AquaClear model, the new pre-filter sponges will still fit perfectly. I'm currently using them on my AquaClear 50s and will be adding one soon to my AquaClear 20. And if you're using a canister filter, you may need to wrap the intake tube with some sponge of your own, just to be safe. One quick rule of thumb: clean water is good, but sterile water, where the environment is stripped of all beneficial microbes and diversity, can actually be harmful. It's possible to overfilter an aquarium, especially if you keep bamboo or vampire shrimp. These filter feeders rely on fine particles and microorganisms suspended in the water column. If you're using very fine filter media, it can strip out those edible particles before your shrimp ever get to them. So while clean water is important, you don't want it to be too clean. A bit of natural debris in the water is actually a sign of a healthy, balanced tank. Now, there are some of you who might want to try a filterless setup, and that's totally viable. In this case, you can use an air stone to help agitate the water surface where gas exchange takes place. This is where carbon dioxide exits the water and oxygen enters. Just a quick note, those bubbles you see rising from the air stone aren't what oxygenates the water. It's the surface agitation that does the oxygenation. You can also skip the air stone completely and rely on your plants to handle the filtration, but this method takes a bit more experience. You'll need to research it carefully to make sure your setup can support enough oxygen, otherwise you might run into issues over time. If you're going this route, think of plants as your silent filter. Beautiful, but only if balanced properly. The third piece of equipment is a heater. Heaters are great for keeping your aquarium at a consistent temperature, especially if your room's temperature tends to fluctuate throughout the day. If your room stays stable year-round, then a heater may not be necessary, unless you're planning to keep certain species that prefer warmer water. Neocaridina and Amano shrimp are extremely hardy and adaptable to a wide temperature range, anywhere from 65 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 28 degrees Celsius. The ideal range, however, is around 70 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 to 26 degrees Celsius. Bamboo and vampire shrimp do best at slightly warmer temperatures, anywhere from 74 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 to 28 degrees Celsius. What you have to keep in mind is that while Neocaridina shrimp can handle cooler temperatures, growth and breeding will slow down below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. On the other hand, if the temperature is constantly too high, say above 78 degrees Fahrenheit, it can lead to faster metabolism, shorter lifespans, and lower oxygen levels, especially if aeration is limited. Here's a good rule: cooler water slows life down, warmer water speeds it up, and too much speed burns them out. Now, the majority of my tanks have heaters and are kept at 74 degrees Fahrenheit, while others sit at 78 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's mainly because I also keep fish that prefer a more tropical environment. The key takeaway when planning your aquarium is to research the shrimp and fish you intend to keep, find out their ideal temperature range, and then decide whether you'll need a heater, taking your room's temperature into account. The fourth piece of equipment you'll need is an aquarium light. While lights are often seen as something to make the tank look nice, they actually play an important role in creating a healthy environment, especially if you keep live plants. A good light also encourages the growth of algae, which is a natural food source for shrimp. Biofilm, on the other hand, doesn't rely directly on light to form. It's made up of bacteria, fungi, and microorganisms that grow on surfaces where nutrients are available. However, light can help indirectly, since it promotes plant and algae growth, which creates more surfaces and microhabitats for biofilm to develop. If your aquarium has only low-light plants such as mosses, Anubias, or Java fern, you don't need anything too powerful. A simple LED light that provides gentle, even illumination for about 6 to 8 hours a day will be more than enough. On the other hand, if you're running a planted aquarium with carpeting plants or faster growing stems, you'll need a higher intensity light and may even want to supplement with CO2 and fertilizers. If your aquarium is located near a window where it receives a bit of indirect natural sunlight, that can sometimes reduce how long you need to run your lights. Just be careful not to let direct sunlight hit the tank, as it can cause algae blooms. In my case, most of my tanks use adjustable LED lights that let me control both brightness and color temperature. I usually keep them on timers so the lighting schedule stays consistent every day, which helps maintain balance in the aquarium and keeps algae under control. Consistency is everything here. Your plants, shrimp, and fish all thrive when the light pattern never changes. Think of it like giving them their own sunrise and sunset. The fifth piece of equipment is an aquarium lid. While it might seem optional, a lid serves several important purposes. It helps reduce evaporation, maintains a stable temperature, and prevents curious shrimp or fish from jumping out. You'd be surprised how often species like Amano shrimp will climb out to explore their surroundings, or how small fish such as rasboras and danios will leap from the tank, especially at night or during water changes. A lid also helps keep dust, pet hair, and other debris from settling into your aquarium. If you're running hang-on back filters, sponge filters, or even air stones that create surface agitation, having a lid will also minimize water splashing and evaporation, which means you'll need to top off your tank less often. If your aquarium light sits directly on top of the tank, a glass or acrylic lid is a great choice since it won't block much light. It also helps protect the light from splashing water or from falling into the tank if it's accidentally bumped during maintenance or while walking by. The main thing to keep in mind is airflow. Make sure your lid isn't completely sealed so gas exchange can still take place at the surface. Leaving a small gap at the back or using a lid with ventilation slots will allow oxygen to enter and carbon dioxide to escape. An aquarium lid is one of those things you don't think you need until you find a shrimp halfway across the floor. The sixth piece of equipment, though optional, is a wave maker. Wave makers are especially useful in larger aquariums where water flow can be limited in certain areas. Over time, dead spots with low circulation can form behind plants, rocks, or driftwood, allowing debris and uneaten food to settle and decay. A wave maker keeps the water moving evenly throughout the tank, improving oxygen distribution and preventing buildup in those stagnant zones. They also provide a major benefit for fish that enjoy a faster current, as well as for filter-feeding shrimp like bamboo and vampire shrimp. These shrimp rely on suspended edible particles in the water column, and a gentle, steady current helps push those particles towards them so they can feed more efficiently. When using a wave maker, make sure the flow isn't too strong. You want movement, not a storm. If your plants and substrate are being tossed around, that's a sign it's too powerful and can cause stress to your shrimp and fish. Aim the wave maker across the length of the tank or toward the front glass to diffuse the current and create a more natural, circular flow. In my bamboo and vampire shrimp tank, my wave maker is aimed directly at the area where my shrimp perch, and that's where they stay the majority of the time. They barely wander the tank in search of food because the current brings it right to them. If you ever notice your bamboo or vampire shrimp digging in the sand, it's a clue your flow's too weak. Adjust it until they go back to fanning. That's when you know it's perfect. With all your equipment in place, your aquarium won't come to life without structure and design. This is where Hardscape and Softscape come in, the foundation and living elements that create the overall look, balance, and functionality of your tank. Hardware gives you control, but it's the design that gives your aquarium soul. Every aquarium, no matter how simple or advanced, needs both Hardscape and Softscape. The Hardscape forms the structure, and the Softscape brings it to life. Together, they create the foundation for stability, balance, and beauty in your tank. Think of the Hardscape as the bones of your aquarium, rocks, wood, and substrate, and the Softscape as the living skin of plants that grows over it. Without both, your aquarium can't truly function as a healthy ecosystem. This is where your aquarium really starts to take shape. The way you design this layout affects everything: how your shrimp behave, how plants grow, and even how stable your water chemistry stays over time. The first thing to think about is the foundation, which is the substrate. Substrate lines the bottom of your aquarium and serves several purposes. It anchors plants, provides surface area for beneficial bacteria, and can influence both the look and chemistry of your tank. For most aquariums, other than those housing Neocaridina shrimp, an inert substrate such as sand or fine gravel is ideal because it won't alter your water parameters. It's easy to maintain and works perfectly for hardy shrimp that don't require soft or acidic water. Aquasoil, on the other hand, is an active substrate designed for planted aquariums. It's nutrient-rich and releases minerals that feed plant roots while also lowering pH and softening the water. That makes it great for Neocaridina shrimp, which prefer more acidic conditions, and for tanks focused on lush plant growth. However, aquasoil can cause fluctuations early on and even trigger algae outbreaks, especially if it isn't capped with an inert substrate. I've seen a lot of new aquariums crash from this exact mistake because the soil releases too many nutrients too quickly and the water becomes unstable. It's best suited for experienced setups or when you're planning to monitor your water parameters closely. Some aquarists also prefer bare-bottom setups, which simply means running a tank without any substrate. This makes maintenance much easier and keeps debris visible for cleaning, though it does limit plant options and can look a little less natural. It can still work well for breeding or hospital tanks, or for minimalist shrimp setups where stability and simplicity are the main goals. If you're unsure what to choose, go simple. A thin layer of fine sand or gravel will look clean, support biofilm, and keep your water parameters stable. Once you've decided on your substrate, the next part of your hardscape involves stones, the backbone of your aquarium's layout. The type of stones you choose can affect not just the appearance of your tank, but also the chemistry of your water. Stones like limestone or cereal contain calcium carbonate, which can slowly raise your water's hardness and pH. This is fine for Neocaridina shrimp, which prefer harder, more alkaline conditions, but may not suit Caridina, which thrive in softer, more acidic water. Inert stones like dragonstone or lava rock are excellent all-round choices. Their rough, porous texture provides great surface area for beneficial bacteria and microalgae, and the tiny crevices make perfect hiding spots for baby shrimp. When arranging your stones, try to create a natural, cohesive look. Avoid straight lines or evenly spaced rocks. Instead, cluster them in odd numbers and vary their sizes and angles. This gives a more organic flow and makes your layout look intentional. Before adding water, always make sure your stones are secure. A single shift later on could crush a shrimp or damage your glass. Stability first, then beauty. Driftwood adds depth and warmth to your aquascape and provides one of the best surfaces for biofilm and algae to grow, two of the most important natural food sources for shrimp. Common types include spiderwood, cholla wood, and manzanita wood. Driftwood also releases tannins, which can slightly lower pH and tint your water a light brown or amber color. This is completely natural and can even have antibacterial benefits. If you prefer clear water, pre-soak or boil the wood to release some tannins before placing it in your tank. Or if you like that warm, tea-colored look, embrace it. It makes the aquarium feel more natural and calming. When arranging driftwood, blend it naturally into your layout so it looks like part of the landscape rather than something placed on top. Use it to create focal points, direct water flow, or anchor plants like Anubias, Java fern, or mosses, which will attach over time. A good trick is to use your driftwood to point the viewer's eye towards the open space where your shrimp will graze. It gives your layout balance and makes the aquarium feel alive even when it's still. With your hardscape in place, it's time to bring your aquarium to life with plants. The Softscape. Plants shape the overall look of your tank while keeping it healthy and stable. They help absorb excess nutrients, improve oxygen levels, and reduce algae growth by outcompeting it for resources. They also provide shade, cover, and natural grazing areas for shrimp and fish. For shrimp tanks, hardy, low-maintenance plants are usually the best choice. Java moss, Christmas moss, Anubias, Java fern, and Bucephalandra are all excellent options. They attach easily to rocks or wood and thrive in low to moderate light, making them perfect for beginners and experienced aquarists. If you want to add more variety, stem plants like Limnophila sessiliflora, Rotala, Hygrophila, or Ludwigia can bring height and color to the background. Foreground plants such as Cryptocorini or dwarf Sagittaria work beautifully in the mid to front sections, creating depth and a more natural flow. Floating plants like redwood floaters, Sylvinia, Frogbit, or dwarf water lettuce are also great additions. They provide surface cover, help diffuse light, and give shrimp and fish a sense of security. Just be careful, too many floaters can block out light and slow growth below. Scoop some out every few weeks. If you keep a betta, gourami, or other labyrinth fish, always leave open surface space so they can breathe, as they can actually drown if the surface is fully covered. When planting, think about layering. Taller plants in the back, mid-sized plants in the middle, and shorter plants or mosses in the front. This gives your tank depth and ensures every plant gets enough light. If you're new, start simple. A few mosses, one epiphyte like Anubias or Java fern, and a handful of floaters. That trio alone keeps things balanced, beautiful, and easy to maintain. Finally, don't worry if your plants take a few weeks to adjust. Some might melt back at first, but don't panic. Give them time to reroot, and they'll come back even stronger. Patience is key here. Once they establish, they'll help your aquarium reach that natural balance you're aiming for. With your equipment, hardscape, and softscape complete, the last and most critical piece of the puzzle is your water. Because even the best design won't last if the water chemistry falls apart. And this next part is where most tanks succeed or fail. Most tanks don't crash because of bad equipment. They crash because the aquarists didn't understand their water. Everything inside it, the shrimp, fish, plants, and even the beneficial bacteria depends on water that's clean, balanced, and stable. Most of us use tap water, which is perfectly fine in many areas, but it almost always contains additives like chlorine or chloramine. Those chemicals make water safe for us, but are toxic to aquatic life. That's why proper water preparation is the most important step in any aquarium setup. If you skip this step, even the best equipment won't save your tank. The first essential product you'll need is a dechlorinator. My go-to is Seachem Prime or Seachem Safe, but there are plenty of other good options. A quality dechlorinator neutralizes chlorine and chloramine instantly, and the best ones also detoxify ammonia and heavy metals, giving your shrimp and fish extra protection during water changes. Always follow the dosage instructions on the bottle. More isn't better. It can actually cause stress or drops in oxygen levels if overdosed. Next, you'll want something to help establish beneficial bacteria. These are the microorganisms that make your aquarium come alive. They convert toxic waste, such as ammonia and nitrite, into less harmful nitrate, keeping your shrimp and fish safe. If you'd like to download a copy of the nitrogen cycle, I'll leave a link for you in the description below. I personally like using Seachem Stability when setting up new tanks. It helps speed up the cycling process, but if you'd rather let nature handle it, that's totally fine too. It'll just take a few extra weeks for your tank to mature on its own. The key is patience. You can't rush the nitrogen cycle. Another product worth having on hand is a water clarifier like Seachem Clarity. It's especially helpful after setting up a new tank, doing maintenance, or anytime you notice fine debris floating around. It works by binding those tiny particles together so your filter can trap them more easily. However, avoid using this in tanks with bamboo or vampire shrimp. These filter feeders rely on suspended particles as food, and clarifiers can strip those right out of the water column. The next essential product is a water test kit. I recommend the API Freshwater Master Test Kit because it measures ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, and pH, everything you need to monitor stability. Testing might seem tedious, but it's how you stay ahead of problems before they happen. Rising ammonia or nitrite means your tank isn't fully cycled or your filter needs attention. Aim for zero ammonia and nitrite, nitrates below 20 ppm, and a stable pH within your shrimp or fish's preferred range. This is how you stop guessing, because guessing is how tanks crash. During the first few weeks of setup, test your water weekly. Once your tank stabilizes, you can space it out every few weeks or after big changes, maintenance, or when you return from vacation. Now, I'm not sponsored by CCAM or API, I just really love their products and I've had great results using them. As I mentioned, there are many other brands out there to choose from, so do your research and find what works best for you and your setup. If your aquarium has live plants, you may also want to use a liquid fertilizer to help support growth. Fertilizers provide essential nutrients like nitrogen, potassium, and trace elements, but you need to be cautious. Some fertilizers contain too much copper, which can be toxic to shrimp in high concentrations. Shrimp actually need a bit of copper for metabolism, but it's already present in their diet. So avoid high copper fertilizers whenever possible. A great shrimp-safe option is Thrive S by Nyloc G Aquatics. It's copper-free and designed specifically for planted aquariums that contain shrimp. If you'd like to learn more about this product, I'll leave a link for you in the description below. When in doubt, start with small doses and watch your shrimp's behavior. As long as they're active and grazing normally, you're in the clear. Finally, let's talk about water source and stability. Tap water works for most aquariums, but if your water source is inconsistent or contains hard-to-control minerals, reverse osmosis water is a great alternative. It gives you full control and you can add minerals back in to match your shrimp's ideal parameters. RO systems can seem intimidating at first, but they're one of the best investments for long-term stability, especially if you plan to breed shrimp or keep sensitive species like Caridina. Whether you're using tap water, well water, or RO water, the single most important thing is stability. You don't need to chase perfect water parameters as your shrimp won't notice those slight differences. What they will notice are big swings in temperature, hardness, or chemistry. Stable and good enough will always beat perfect but changing. Focus on consistency, as in the same water source, same dechlorinator, same routine, and your aquarium will reward you with stability, active shrimp and fish, and long-term balance. Get this part right, and you've already done 90% of the work toward a thriving tank. Now let's look at the most common mistakes that cause aquariums to crash and how to avoid them before they happen. Even with the best equipment, layout, and water prep, aquariums can still crash, and it usually comes down to a few common mistakes. These are the things that quietly destabilize your tank without you realizing it, and they're exactly what cause most new aquariums to fail within the first few weeks. So, before you add shrimp or fish, let's make sure you're not setting yourself up for failure. Mistake number 1 is adding shrimp or fish too early. This is the number 1 reason tanks crash. When you add livestock before your aquarium has fully cycled, the beneficial bacteria haven't had time to establish yet. Without that bacterial balance, ammonia and nitrate levels can spike quickly, causing stress or even death. Always give your tank time to cycle, ideally 3 to 4 weeks, and test your water regularly during that period. A mature tank also allows biofilm to form, which is one of the most important natural food sources for shrimp. Add them too early and they can actually starve in what looks like a clean tank. Mistake number 2 is overcleaning. A lot of beginners think more cleaning equals a healthier tank, but in reality, overcleaning removes the very microbes that keep your system stable. Beneficial bacteria live on your substrate, walls, filter, and decorations. If you scrub everything spotless, you wipe them out. Stick to gentle maintenance, small 10 to 20% weekly water changes, light algae scraping, and rinsing your filter media in aquarium water. Your goal isn't to make the tank spotless, it's to make it balanced. Mistake number 3 is overfeeding. We all love spoiling our shrimp and fish, but too much food can quickly become waste, breaking down into ammonia and fouling your water. Start with very small portions and observe how quickly it's eaten. If it's still there after a couple of hours, you're feeding too much. Shrimp especially do better with light feeding since they graze all day on biofilm, algae, and detritus between meals. Less food means cleaner water, healthier shrimp, and fish. If you want to try the same foods I feed my shrimp, I've linked my full shrimp food collection in the description and pinned comment below. And you can use promo code FOREVER10 to save 10% on your order. Mistake number 4 is overfiltering. Yes, it's possible to have too much filtration. Strong filters and dense media can strip your water of fine particles that filter feeders like bamboo and vampire shrimp depend on. These species rely on suspended microfood drifting in the current, not sterile water. Leave a little natural debris in the system, that's what keeps your shrimp well fed and your ecosystem self-sustaining. Mistake number 5 is making sudden changes. Stability is everything in an aquarium. Rapid shifts in temperature, pH, or hardness, even small ones, can shock your shrimp and throw the whole system off balance. Even rearranging decor after adding shrimp can stress them out, and in some cases, it can be fatal. Always make gradual adjustments. Match temperatures during water changes, adjust parameters slowly, and resist the urge to fix things too fast. In shrimp keeping, consistency beats perfection every time. Finally, mistake number 6 is rushing the balance. Every aquarium goes through stages. A little cloudiness, some algae, maybe a few hiccups along the way. That's completely normal. The biggest mistake new aquarists make is trying to fight it instead of letting the tank mature. A healthy tank takes time to find its balance. Once it does, it becomes almost effortless to maintain. So that's everything you need to set up a healthy, thriving shrimp or community aquarium. Take your time, keep things stable, and enjoy the process. That's what makes this hobby so rewarding. Be honest with me. Have you ever rushed a setup and had something go wrong fast? Did you lose shrimp or fish through no real fault of your own? And did it make you want to quit? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've ever felt so discouraged that you almost quit the aquarium hobby, or you're feeling that way right now, I'd really like you to watch this next video. I want you to know you're not alone, and you're part of the SC family. You'll also find my full shrimp food collection linked in the description and pinned comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more shrimp keeping tips, guides, and advice. I'm Andy, thanks for watching, and I hope I made shrimp keeping a little easier for you. I'll catch you in the next one.